incredibly fascinating space, the deeply sensitive, profoundly observant human mind. You know, it's a lot like a cinematic watercolor painting, fluid, sometimes a bit messy, but always vibrant and full of intricate detail. We're not just going to talk about what it means to be highly observant today. We're actually diving into the healing process. We're talking about setting boundaries and making that massive shift from a state of exhausting fear into one of light and curiosity. So, let's get into it. They can turn one small silence into an entire universe of thoughts. Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. If you have an overaware mind, you know exactly what this exhausting reality feels like. You walk into a room, right? Nobody's raising their voice, absolutely zero drama happening, but your brain, it's already finished scanning the whole place. You catch the avoided glances. You feel that heavy burden of reading hidden layers in just a forced smile or a tiny shift in someone's posture, stuff literally everyone else walks right past. People love to call this a superpower, but honestly, without boundaries, it feels a whole lot more like a psychological trap. Okay, let's look at a scenario that might give some of you a little spike of anxiety just thinking about it. Picture this, a 4 p.m. Slack message from your boss that says, "Come see me for a minute later." For a typical person, hey, that's just a meeting on the calendar. But for the overaware brain, oh no, the mental gymnastics kick off instantly. You immediately catch this invisible coldness in the wording. You aren't just reading the words anymore. Your brain is dissecting the punctuation, the timing, maybe even that 3-second pause before they said hello to you this morning. You start wondering, am I getting fired? Did I totally mess up that project? It's the daily reality of a brain that basically has no off switch. Now, what's really interesting about this next concept is how it explains the sheer exhaustion of the overaware mind. We have to look at the brain's default mode network, or DMN. Imagine your energy broken down like this. 50% goes just to nodding and smiling, while the other 50% is furiously taking notes and analyzing. For most folks, the DMN is active when they're resting or just daydreaming. But for the overaware, it is in absolute overdrive during social interactions. Half your brain is literally just trying to hold a cup of coffee and act normal, while the other half is running an exhausting marathon, comparing details, assessing threats, evaluating tone. It's no wonder you feel completely drained after a simple office lunch. Which brings us to Section 1, Origins, Sensitivity or Survival. Psychology actually points us toward two totally distinct origins for this relentless high-definition awareness. And honestly, figuring out which one applies to you is the first major step toward managing it. So first up is the inborn trait, sensory processing sensitivity, or being a highly sensitive person, an HSP. If you're in this group, you were just born with a nervous system that acts like an ultra-fine filter, absorbing everything around you in incredibly high resolution. But for others, the origin is entirely different. It's an inheritance of survival, or hypervigilance. This usually takes root in childhood. Imagine a kid growing up in an emotionally unstable environment. To survive, that child might literally memorize the sound of car tires rolling into the driveway just to predict if a parent is coming home angry or calm. Their amygdala, the brain's danger alarm, is basically jammed in the on position, constantly scanning for threats. And eventually, this survival mechanism fuses right into their adult identity. They grow up thinking they're just chronic overthinkers, when really they're carrying a shield forged in childhood survival. Moving right along to Section 2, the illusion of control. As this profound awareness moves with us into adulthood, it slowly starts to morph. It stops being just a handy tool for observation and quietly transforms into a heavy defense mechanism. We call this analysis paralysis. See, when you're terrified of unexpected pain, your mind tries to control the future by predicting literally every single variable. You're running endless mental simulations. What if they pull away? What if this project completely tanks? You end up trapped inside this maze of assumptions, living in 10 different versions of the future at the exact same time. The heartbreaking trade-off here is that by trying to manage the risks of life so intensely, you completely step out of the present moment. You're trading presence for protection. And that leads us into Section 3, setting emotional boundaries. Let's just take a breath here because this is where the real healing begins. You can't just flip a switch and turn off this profound awareness. I mean, it'd be like asking someone with perfect vision to suddenly see the world as blurry, but you absolutely can change how you manage it. So the crucial point here is this. Notice things, but refuse to absorb them. Because the overly aware mind operates with intense emotional empathy. You don't just notice when a friend is upset. Your mirror neurons actually fire, and you literally absorb their pain right into your own chest. To stop acting as a container for other people's emotional waste, psychotherapy points us to a few incredibly freeing principles. Let's look at them. Principle 1 is to stop personalizing. Look, when your brain is hypervigilant, it tends to view everything as a reflection of you. But sometimes a slow text reply isn't a rejection. It literally just means the person on the other end is exhausted. That coworker who walked past you without smiling, they might just have a massive headache. Not every silence is a hidden equation about your worth that you somehow have to solve. Just stepping back and realizing that is profoundly liberating. Now, to grasp the next principle, we really need to understand something called interoception. This is your ability to sense your body's internal state. Overly aware people usually have hypersensitive interoception. What does that mean? Well, say you drink a normal cup of espresso. Your heart beats a tiny bit faster from the caffeine, right? But your brain misinterprets that data and screams, fast heartbeat equals danger, panic attack, incoming. Completely normal physical sensations end up triggering a brutal loop of anxiety and stress hormones. Let's move to the next step and see how this builds, because this hypersensitivity brings us to principle 2, breaking the anxiety loop. When that racing heart or sudden wave of sadness hits, your metacognition usually kicks in to harshly judge it. Why am I sad? I shouldn't be sad. Instead of that, try following these steps. 1, notice the sensation. 2, observe it objectively. Just say to yourself, oh, my heart is beating fast. It's just a physical feeling. And 3, let it pass. Do not rush to fix it, analyze it, or judge yourself for it. Just let it be. And that brings us right to principle 3, boundaries on insights. Listen, just because your deep awareness allows you to see the backstage of human behavior, just because you can clearly spot someone's insecurity or the instability in their relationship, does not mean you have to act on it. You are not required to be everyone's therapist. You don't have to be the emotional regulator for the entire room. Often, the absolute best and healthiest response to noticing someone else's chaos is simply to take a step back. I want to pause here for a moment. Clarity is only a gift when it comes with boundaries. This right here is the emotional core of everything we're exploring in this explainer today. Seeing the absolute truth of a situation is deeply painful if you feel obligated to fix it. You really must learn what belongs to you to handle and what belongs to the world to just leave alone. And as you'll see, this brilliantly illustrates the transformation that happens when you actually apply those boundaries. Just look at the shift from the old way to the new way. You stop using your awareness to predict every possible disaster, manage other people's feelings, and live in constant fear. Instead, your awareness softens, it matures. You can still feel the energy of a room, sure, but you aren't pulled into its chaotic current anymore. You start using your awareness to be present, to be light, and to be deeply curious about the beautiful flow of life around you. Which leaves us with this final, beautiful thought. Are you ready to turn your sharp laser into a warm candle? Because you can't turn off the light in your mind, but you can absolutely change its intensity. You can stop using it as a harsh, exhausting laser that exposes every flaw and hidden motive. Instead, you can soften it into a warm candle, bright enough to understand the fragility of human nature, but gentle enough to finally bring warmth and peace to your soul.